welcome! It has been weeks since I made a video. Life just got really busy and I haven't had the time. So I thought we'll take a quick look at the garden today just to have a bit of a catch up of how things are doing. It is finally raining. Here in the southwest, the same as all of the UK, it has been ridiculously hot and dry for the past month. So we're very pleased to finally see some rain. We're supposed to be getting thunderstorms a couple hours from now, but tomorrow is going to be another sunny day. I have been delighted and surprised at how well everything has coped out in the garden, especially as I have not been watering outdoors. I do run a garden system of heavy mulching year on year on year, and this has helped condition my soil to hold on to what moisture it can get, which seems to be paying off. As I said, I haven't done any watering outdoors. The dahlias are looking wonderful. I'm really pleased with them. Now this yellow one that we can see at the moment has actually been a little bit too tall for its big fluffy yellow heads, and I've had quite a few, just like this sad specimen at the side, that have fallen over. So I'm going to take this flower, if I can snap it off, and its little friend. So I shall have these indoors in a flower vase and enjoy them for the next couple of days. So this particular dahlia, I'll put its name on the screen, needs a lot more support, some sort of cage or staking than I have been giving it. Let's go and take a closer look at a few of the others while we're here. This second bed up in the garden has definitely accidentally become one of my favourites. I have this enormous purple flowering dahlia, Thomas A. Edison. These yellow, they're not, they're orange. These orange pom-poms have done especially well. Yes, I like the colour, I like the pom-pommy shape. They're quite tall and still holding their own. And the flower blooms last so long on the plant. Most of the other varieties, after a couple of days, the flowers start withering away. Yes, there are a lot more buds to come, and the plant itself continues looking nice, but these orange pom-poms hang around for a good 10 days. It's wonderful. So here's a close-up of those lovely orange pom-poms. Dahlia called Sylvia. And this beautiful big-headed deep purple of Thomas A. Edison. And I can't remember choosing this spiky little pink. It's called Park Princess, and I've been loving it, covered in lots of flowers. Tucked at the back of this bed is one of my old favourites, a Bishop of Llandaff, with its single-petalled bee-friendly flowers and beautiful dark leaves. The butternut squash plant in this next bed up seems to have suddenly taken off. It's very late, putting on this spurt of growth. I don't know if we'll get any ripe butternuts from it. It's well behind everything else in the main squash patch. One of my casualties from the fierce summer heat, a squash that didn't make it. Its companion behind is actually looking quite hungry with those very yellow leaves. I obviously need to feed this bed. The view from my polytunnel doorway, looking out into the garden. The giant sunflowers are past looking their best. They did survive extremely well in the belting hot heat. I shan't cut the heads yet. I'm going to wait until they droop on the plant, and then I shall cut them and bring them indoors to finish drying out. Hopefully I'll get them before the birds do. Sunflower seeds to put in bread mixes this winter. And of course, lots to save for next year's planting. The squash seems to have survived the sweltering heat much better than I thought they would. I haven't watered outdoors at all during that dry month of August. There were a couple of evenings when the squash leaves were looking very wilty and thirsty, and I decided to hold off till the following morning to water them. But when I came out the following morning, things had firmed up again and were looking okay. I did still think I might lose a plant or two, but now the cooler temperatures have been here for a good week. They're looking great. Can I get a squash? Let me see one. Orangey one. Little splash of orange. This is a curry squash, and I have butternut squashes planted in here as well. I didn't plant any huge carving squashes this year. I specifically went for small portioned eating squash. Though I eat the big squash, it's a lot to manage in the kitchen. So this year I decided to go for all small varieties. So there's lots of orange curries, looking very ripe and ready. But I'm going to hold off harvesting That stem looks like it's starting to change colour. But I shall wait until the plant leaves start to die off. I generally don't harvest my squash until either the plant leaves start to die off or this stem starts getting munched by the slugs. It's usually a sign it's time to bring them in. Lots of lovely orange curry squash hiding under the leaves of this plant. But if we carry on down the squash stem, carrying on down the stem, there are many more pale yellows. There are more still to ripen up. Now the pale yellow curry fruits nearer the end of the vines, I've started covering with protective baskets. An empty hanging basket frame. This is to keep the rabbits from eating them, as they're much more out in the open at the end of those long trailing vines. Whereas the orange squash that are nearly ripe are deep inside the cover of all those lovely prickly leaves. I have this one green stripy squash out here, and I didn't recognise it or know what it was. Then my one squash plant that is in the polytunnel produced a fruit that looks exactly the same, and this is a delica, a very popular squash in Italy. I hand pollinated this one just the other day. It looks like it's setting a fruit, so hopefully I'll end up with 3 of the delica squashes. Back outside, butternuts as well, also under protection because there aren't very many of them. This one's still a bit green and stripy, so not ready for harvesting yet. A real close-up look at this particular curry. See how it's starting to get that woody, barky look to its stalk. This is fine for harvesting. For comparison, although this squash has turned orange, its stem is still very yellow. It's starting to turn, but it's not quite ready. The longer I can leave it, the better this squash will store through the winter, and the yummier it will taste. because I have the space to allow them to grow, I don't cut the ends off my pumpkin vines. I allow them to carry on growing. This one's still trying to produce little fruits. There's not enough time left in my season for that to mature. The two marrow plants are still producing like crazy. Too many marrows. Marrows, marrows, marrows and marrows and yet more marrows. So many marrows. No idea what I'm going to do with them all. Another one. There are still a few small sunflowers left, just right for this bee to enjoy. I did plant a couple of my dahlia tubers in the polytunnel, just to give me a bit of backup if I lose my outdoor ones to slugs and the weather. And thankfully, by sheer chance, one of these massive purple flowers is one of the plants that ended up being planted in here. Look at the size of this head. It's huge with my hand for scale. It's more like a sunflower than a dahlia. It's enormous. The only problem being, as you see, it has flopped onto the ground. That head is so heavy it needs staking. So amongst this lot, got a deep burgundy red dahlia variety, another bishop of Llandaff, and a pretty little pink. The cucumber plant has had a really rough time in here. Lots of dead, dry, crispy leaves. But at the end of its growing tips, we're still green and healthy. And there are little tiny cucumbers forming. I don't know if I'll get any more harvest from it this year, but we'll keep watering it. And you never know, I just might get a bonus late cucumber. But most importantly, it is now tomato harvest time. And there are loads. Woo, this whole plant's swinging on its stem. Oh, I'm dripping. I'm glowing with perspiration. Sorry about the excessive background noise. They're cutting the hedges outside. The next job in here today is to harvest some lovely tomatoes, because there are lots ready. What I have noticed this year for the first time with my tomatoes is quite a few of them have this bleaching at the top, and I think it's sunburn, but I've not experienced sunburn on the tomatoes before, so I'm not entirely sure. The rest of the tomato ripens up beautifully as normal, but this little top exposed area is still quite firm inside the tomato when you eat it. So not only is it a different shade, it isn't ripe either. It's not just a pattern in the tomato. This area is not ripening up, but it's not rotten. So I'm just going to cut past it and turn them into soup anyway. Let's get harvesting. I didn't bring the trug as ever. Well, that's a nice little harvest, a trug full of tomatoes and a sweet corn to eat for lunch. If you've enjoyed today's video, click that like button and let me know. Click subscribe and YouTube will make sure you see my next video. Bye for now and thanks for watching. And remember, whatever you're doing, have fun doing it.